I'll keep it. I'll keep it.
A very dangerous criminal. Al Capone, the one who killed many people for his own interests.
Hi, dear friend. I hope you are well, and wherever you are in the world you are well and healthy. I invite you to watch this movie. This movie is about one of the most dangerous criminals in America, a ruthless killer in Al Capone.
Alphonse Gabriel Capone, known as Al Capone, was born on January 17, 1899 in Brooklyn, New York. His parents were Italian immigrants. Gabrielle Capone, 1865 to 1920, and Teresa Capone, née Raiola, 1867. 1952, his father was a barber and his mother a seamstress, both born in Angri, a small district outside Naples in the province of Salerno. Capones had immigrated to the United States by ship in 1893 initially, passing through Fiume, present-day Rijeka, Croatia, a port city in what was then Austria-Hungary.
Although Capone was identified as a used furniture dealer on his ID card, he was actually a notorious American gangster during the 1920s and 1930s. The original Capone was Napoli, a New York-born Napolitano who began his crime spree in Brooklyn before moving to Chicago, Illinois, and becoming the city's most notorious criminal. He was extremely powerful and gained a lot of fame by committing murders, selling drugs, and selling weapons, and since then, he is considered the biggest gangster in the world after Pablo Escobar. Al Capone's father, Gabriel Capone, was a hairdresser from a small town called Castellammare di Stabia, 25 kilometers south of Naples, and his mother, Teresa Raiola, was a seamstress from a small town called Angri in southwestern Italy. The couple had 7 sons and had 2 daughters, immigrated to America in 1894 and settled in Williamsburg near Brooklyn. Al Capone started delinquency at a young age by committing petty crimes. At the age of 14, he had to leave high school due to a fight with one of the teachers. At this time, he joined the 5 Points gang, led by Frankie Yale, and then worked as a bartender at the Harvard Inn, which belonged to Yale.
He received his famous facial scars as a teenager during an altercation with a man whose sister he had insulted. As an adult, his brawling behavior brought him to the attention of racketeers Frankie Yale and Johnny Torrio. Torrio subsequently invited Capone to join him as a partner when he took over the businesses of Chicago crime lord Big Jim Colosimo, and soon expanded his operations to take advantage of the lucrative market for bootlegging created by the passage of the 18th Amendment and the Volstead Act, which banned the manufacture, importation, and sale of alcoholic drinks within the United States. Following Colosimo's never-solved assassination in May 1920, many believe that Capone personally killed him. Torrio and Capone quickly established themselves as major players in Chicago's rising organized crime world.
In 1918, he married an Irish girl named May Coughlin, and in the same year had a son whom he named Albert, Sonny Francis Capone. During these days, Capone was still in the service of Frankie Yale and lived in Brooklyn with his wife for a year. After committing 2 counts of murder, Yale had to send him to Chicago to calm things down a bit. This move was the beginning for one of the most notorious criminals in modern American history. Capone took up residence in a small house in Cicero, a suburb of Chicago, and worked in the organization of a professional criminal named Johnny Torrio, who was Paul's former boss. As a shrewd criminal, Capone left no evidence of his wrongdoings. He had a very extensive espionage network in Chicago and was particularly adept at identifying enemies and planned his assassination before any enemy became too powerful. One of the most famous operations carried out by Capone and his gang was the Valentine's Day Massacre on February 14, 1929. 4 members of Capone's gang broke into a garage on Clark Street. The garage building was actually the headquarters of Capone's rival gang's liquor smuggling operations. 2 of Capone's men were wearing police uniforms, and this caused the rival group, who were 7 people, to put their guns on the ground and stand with their backs to the wall, imagining that the police would attack. Capone's men with 2 rifles and 2 machine guns. More than 150 shots were fired at them. 6 of them were killed, and the 7th person, who was a member of Al Capone's group, miraculously escaped from death. Finally, in 1927, the passage of new laws allowed the government to convict him of tax evasion. At this time, Capone decided to leave Chicago, and in his search for a suitable place to live, he found that he had a very bad reputation in America, and the masses of people hate him and his group. It was after that he decided to make himself a popular social figure. He helped the poor, set up free restaurants in slums, participated in charity work, and even opened his nightclub to artists such as Charlie Parker and Bing Crosby. After Chicago in 1928, he chose Florida to continue his life. Frank Wilson, the only officer who pursued Capone and worked on his case, was able to find evidence of Capone's illegal gambling income and arrest him for tax evasion. In 1931, despite the great efforts of Capone and those around him, the court sentenced him to 11 years in prison and to pay a fine. At the time of his conviction, Capone never considered himself a bad person and believed that he was a servant of the people, a servant who spent the best years of his life serving the people and their happiness, and instead was insulted and persecuted. In 1932, he was sent to Atlanta prison. 2 years later, he was sent to Alcatraz prison under special care. Over time, he developed a mental illness to the extent that he did not leave his prison cell for a long time. He spent the last months of his sentence in a mental hospital. In his absence, Capone's gang was disrupted by rival gangs. In addition, in the last 20 years of his life, he had seriously lost his health and weight, while his physical and mental health had deteriorated under the influence of neurosyphilis. In 1946, examinations by his physician and a Baltimore psychiatrist concluded that Capone, given the brain damage caused by syphilis, had the level of understanding and mental ability of a 12-year-old child. He often talked wistfully about communists, foreigners, and things that were plotting to kill him in his Ohio jail cell. In 1947, he died of cardiac arrest and was buried in Mount Eliot Cemetery in Chicago, next to his father and brother. In March 1950, the remains of all 3 members of this family were transferred to Mount Carmel Cemetery. Professional gangster Al Capone's bulletproof Cadillac was used to transport U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt after his arrest. In the end, dear friend, if you like this video, please support me with like, comment, and subscribe. And comment me your suggestions and criticisms. Thanks.